Hello and welcome students. In the last video lecture I had completed chapter number 7, that is dissolution of partnership firm, of part 1 of your textbook. Now in this video lecture I am going to start with the second part of accountancy textbook, that is first chapter, accounting for share capital. Now in this chapter, first of all, let us understand the introduction as to what is the accounting of share capital. Okay, introduction. Company form came into existence after industrial revolution due to limitation of proprietorship and partnership firm in carrying out business on a large scale. Now students, you are knowing there are basically three forms of business organization, that is sole proprietorship firm, partnership firm and joint stock company. So after the industrial revolution, there were certain limitations found of the sole proprietorship firm and partnership firm, and so the existence of company form of organization came into. In the modern age, capital is required for the business. So company collects its own capital from several persons. Joint stock company is an association of persons and has an objective of carrying out some business for profit. Naturally, company form of organization is also having the aim of earning profit. And as in case of sole proprietorship or partnership firm, there are limitation of members. Such limitations are overcome and large amount of capital fund can be generated with the help of joint stock company, as it is an association of large number of shareholders. Okay. Previously, as you are knowing that Companies Act 1956 that was being followed, just as in partnership firm, the Partnership Act 1932 is being followed. Presently, in case of company form of organization, the new Companies Act that has been came into existence in the year 2013. So whatever the company will be formed, joint stock company will be created, will be formed according to the new Companies Act that is of 2013. Okay, so now let us understand, after understanding the introduction of the company form of organization, let us understand the types of companies. Now the heading of the chapter, that is accounting of share capital. Now shares and debentures can be issued only by the joint stock company, that is company form of organization. Such shares and debentures can never be issued by the sole proprietorship and partnership firm. That's why it is necessary to understand the basic introduction and the meaning of types of various companies in order to understand the issue of share capital and debentures. Okay, so let us understand now the types of companies. Based on establishment, the companies are mainly of two types, that is statutory companies or corporations, and the second one, that is registered companies. These companies or corporations are created by the special act of state or central legislature. It means statutory companies or corporations are generated according to the certain regulations or rules and regulations of the central or state legislature, such as examples are of Life Insurance Corporation of India, GSFC, that is Gujarat State Finance Corporation, Gujarat State Civil Supplies Corporation, etc. These companies are formed according to the rules and regulations that are framed by the state or central legislature. That's why they are called as statutory companies or corporations. Next one, that are registered companies. The companies which are registered under the Companies Act 2013, that are called as registered companies. It means you have to obtain the prior permission of the companies register in order to form a company. It means whatever the company is being formed, that has to follow the rules and regulations of the Companies Act 2013, and it has to be registered. Most of the companies of our country that are registered under this type, that's why they are called as registered companies. Okay, now after understanding the types of companies, the next topic that we are going to study, that is, as per Indian Companies Act 2013, there are two main types of companies. It means in case of registered companies, there are two main types of companies according to the Companies Act 2013, that are private company and public company. Now what is private company and public company? These topics you might have studied in OCM. So this is just a revision of whatever you have studied in the OCM, that is Articles of Association and Memorandum of Association. types of company, that is private company and public company. What are the minimum and maximum number of members in private and public company? These are the basic details that you have already studied in OCM. Okay, so this is just the revision of the chapter of OCM. Now let us understand first of all private company. A private company is one which by articles of association restricts the right to transfer its shares, limits the number of its members to 200. Now private company is such a company where the shares and debentures are not open for public subscription. It means no right is having the public to subscribe in case of the private company. The maximum number of member, that is 200 in case of private company, and prohibits any invitation to the public to subscribe for any securities, that is shares or debentures of the company. It means no public person is allowed to subscribe the shares or debentures of a private company. Must have at least 2 members. It means minimum number of members in case of private company, that is 2, and maximum limit, that is of 200 members. The name of private company ends with the word private limited. It means if it is a private company, then after the name of the company, the word private limited should be attached with it. So for example, it is given over here, Panchvilla Cotton Private Limited, Apex Hydro Private Limited. It means after the name of the company, the word private limited will be joined with it, so as to define that it is a private company. Okay, next one, the next type of company, that is public company. A company which is not a private company is called public company. A public company must have at least 7 members. Just as in case of private company there are minimum 2 members, in case of public company there should be at least 7 members. There is no restriction on the maximum number of members. In private company, maximum number of members, that should be 200, but in case of public company there is no maximum limit. There can be unlimited members in case of public company. The name of public company ends with the word limited. Just as in case of private company, the word private limited should be attached with the name of the company. Same way, at the end of the name of the company, the word limited should be utilized in case of public company. For example, Karnavati Textile Limited, Infosys Technology Limited, and so on. So the word limited will be attached with the word with the name of the company in case of public company, and in case of private company, the word private limited will be attached with the name of the company. Okay, now let us understand the liability of members or shareholders. The companies are of mainly 3 types. It means on the basis of the liability, there are 3 different types of companies. First company, that is company limited by shares. It means the liability of the shareholders is only up to the amount of the shares that they have purchased. Even at the time of dissolution of the company also, their liability is limited only up to the amount of the amount or value of the shares that they have purchased. In these companies, liability of shareholders is limited up to the extent of the face value of shares held by them. Most of the companies are of this kind. It means mostly the majority of the companies are having the company limited by shares. It means their liability is limited up to the face value of the shares that they are holding. Okay. Next one, that is company limited by guarantee. In such companies, at the time of liquidation, the liability of shareholders is limited to a specified amount as guarantee. It means at the time of being the member of the company, they have given the guarantee up to a certain amount, so up to a specified amount. So at the time of liquidation, their liability is limited up to the amount that they have guaranteed. Usually such companies are not for the purpose of earning profit. Now this guarantee they are giving in order for the social welfare of the company. They are not joining in the business for earning profit. So such type of companies are generally established for the social welfare or such activities which are beneficial for the society, such as activities like art, science, sports, culture, social welfare, etc. Board of Control for Cricket in India. Such type of companies are company limited by guarantee. Okay. Next one, third type, according to the liability of members, that is company by unlimited liability. In this type of company, there is no limit on the liability of its members. It means when a company suffers loss and the company's property is not sufficient to pay off its debts, the private company of its members will be used to meet the claim of creditors. In this type of company, the liability of its members becomes unlimited. At the time of dissolution or at the time of liquidation of the company, the personal property of the private property of the members will be utilized if the company's property is insufficient to pay out the claim of the creditors. So that private property will be also utilized in case of liquidation of the company. So their liability becomes unlimited. Okay. Next one, after understanding the company by limited by shares, limited by guarantee and unlimited liability, let us understand all the types of company in a form of a chart given to you. That is types of companies based on establishment and based on registration. On the basis of registration, there are basically type that is based on liability of members, and on the basis of liability of members there are again three subtypes on the basis of liability of members, that is company limited by shares, company limited by guarantee and company by unlimited liability. And in case of company limited by shares, there are again three subtypes, that is public company, private company and one person company. So one person company, in that he is the sole owner, in which all the ownership of the company rests with him. He is having the maximum shares of the company. Then that type of company is known as one person company. So this is the entire chart of all the types of companies and their subtypes of companies also. So first of all, the types of companies that are divided into two parts, that is based on establishment, that is statutory companies or corporations, and next one that is based on registration, that is registered company. In case of registered company, there are again based on liability of members, and in case of liability of members there are again three subtypes, that is company limited by shares, company limited by guarantee and company by unlimited liability. Now in case of company limited by shares, there are again three subtypes, that is public company, private company and one person company. Now after understanding the types of companies and the detailed study of all the types of companies, let us understand the next topic, that is share and share capital, meaning, nature and types. So up till now students, we have understood the introduction, the types of companies and the subtypes of the companies. Now the next topic, that is share and share capital. Capital of companies called share capital, which can be divided into transferable small denominations. Each such unit of denomination is known as share. Generally you might have seen that the face value of share is generally of rupees 10 per share. So even the very small amount of shares also normal or the common people can purchase the shares of the company and can become a shareholder. Okay, so very small amount of denomination or the unit has been divided, and that is called the shares. To raise capital, company issues prospectus as required by law and invites public to purchase its shares. It means company issues the shares in the public and the public purchases the shares of the company. Those who purchase the shares of company are called members. Naturally, those who are purchasing the shares of the company, they are called the shareholders of the company. As long as the shares are held by this person, is called shareholder of the company. For shareholders who has purchased or is in possession of shares, indicate the proportion of his ownership. It means the number of shares that he has purchased, up to that extent he becomes the owner of the company. Okay, next one, now we are going to study, there are basically two types of shares, that is preference shares and equity shares. First one, that is preference shares. Now preference shares is one which gives preferential right to its holder for receiving the dividend at a specified rate before any dividend paid to equity shareholder. The preference share word itself specifies that they are given the preference before the equity shareholders. It means at the time of paying the dividend to the preference shareholders, they are paid the dividend first of all before paying the dividend to the equity shareholders. So priority or preference is given to the preference shareholders at the time of payment of dividend. Okay, when the company goes into liquidation, the preference shareholder has the preferential right for repayment of capital before the equity shareholder. So the preference shareholder are getting two preference, one at the time of getting the dividend before the equity shareholders, and the second one, the repayment of the preference share capital at the time of liquidation of the company before the equity shareholder. So both the time they are getting preference before the equity shareholders. Okay. Now let us study the types of preference shares. The first one, that is cumulative and non-cumulative preference shares. In case of cumulative preference shares, if in any year the dividend on preference share is not paid due to insufficient profit, such arrears of dividend shall be paid together with current year dividend in the year when there is sufficient profit. It means if any year there is insufficient profit or less amount of profit, or company has made a loss in a particular year, then in that year if the company doesn't give dividend to the such shares, then in the next year when the company earns profit, then they can give the combined profit of both the years. It means it is not necessary to pay the dividend in the year where there is insufficient profit or loss has occurred to the company. It can combine that dividend of both the years and can give in the year when there is sufficient profit. Okay. So, and non-cumulative preference shares are such shares, such arrears of dividend not accumulated and are not paid in future. It means in the year when there is insufficient profit, then also the company has to pay the dividend on non-cumulative preference shares. So it would be a burden for the company to pay the non-cumulative preference shares in the year when the company is going on in loss. Okay. Next one, that is redeemable and irredeemable preference shares. Redeemable means which are to be paid out, which are to be repaid by the company, that are called redeemable. And irredeemable means which are not to be repaid by the company during the lifetime of the company. Okay. If the amount of preference shares is to be repaid by the company at the end of stipulated period or after giving proper notice to the holder of the preference shares, such shares are called redeemable preference shares. It means it has been to be repaid to the shareholders. Such type of redeemable preference shares are to be repaid to the shareholders at the end of the stipulated time period, then they are called redeemable preference shares. And preference shares which are redeemed only at the time of liquidation, it means these type of shares are not to be redeemed during the lifetime of the company, but they are to be paid only at the time of dissolution or liquidation of the company, then that type of shares are called irredeemable preference shares. Okay. Next, third type, that is participating and non-participating preference shares. Preference shareholders who hold participating preference shares get fixed rate of dividend as decided by the company. In addition to this, they also have a right to participate in surplus profit remaining after distribution of specified dividend to equity shareholders subject to terms of participation. Participating preference shareholders are such shareholders, they are getting the right to participate in the surplus profit that is remaining after paying the dividend to equity shareholders. If there is any amount of profit remaining after paying to the equity shareholders, then they are having the right to get that surplus amount of profit according to their terms of participation. In the event of winding up of the company, if after paying the capital of both preference and equity shareholders there is still some surplus left, it means at the time of liquidation of the company also, after paying the equity and preference shareholders, if there is any surplus amount of capital left, then they are liable to get a part of it at the time of liquidation of the company, that are called participating preference shares. They are having the participation share even at the time of the surplus profit and even at the time of surplus capital at the time of liquidation of company. Okay. Next, preference shareholders of non-participating preference shares get only a fixed rate of dividend. They are not liable to, they are not having the right to participate in the surplus profit or surplus capital. Okay. Next one, fourth type, that is convertible and non-convertible, that is the last type of preference shares. That is the preference shares which can be converted partly or fully into equity shares as per agreed terms at the time of issue are known as convertible. It means whichever shares, preference shares which can be converted either partly or fully into equity shares, then they are called as convertible preference shares, and which cannot be converted either partly or fully into equity shares are called as non-convertible preference shares. Okay. Now, after understanding the types of preference shares, Let us understand what are called equity shares. Okay, equity shares are also called as ordinary shares, the shares which are not preference shares. It means they are not having any kind of preference at the time of receiving dividend also, and even at the time of repayment, at the time of liquidation of the company, then that type of shares are called as equity shares. Equity shareholders have voting rights in the company's meeting. Dividend on equity shares, which is decided by the board of directors and approved by the shareholders in the general meeting, is given only out of profit remaining after distribution of dividend on preference shares at fixed rate. It means they are being paid dividend at the time of profit of the company, and that too only after paying the dividend to preference shareholders. If any profit remains, then and then only dividend will be paid to the equity shareholders. Company gives a dividend on equity shares every year on the basis of current year's profit of the previous year, accumulated reserve, possibility of future profit, and also management policy of the company. It means dividend whichever is paid to the equity shareholders, that will be based on the current year's profit, even the accumulated profit of the previous years, and future possibility of profit, and even the management decision of the company. All these factors are affecting in paying the dividend to the equity shareholders. At the time of liquidation from the balance fund, equity shareholders have right of repayment of capital only after returning preference share capital. It means even at the time of liquidation also, after paying the preference shareholders, if any surplus remains of the capital, then and then only the equity shareholders will be paid out. So the liability of equity shareholders becomes unlimited and the risk factor is more in case of equity share capital. Equity share capital is known as principal share capital of the company. According to current provision of Companies Act, the equity share should have a minimum face value of ₹1. Most of the company, and in the present scenario, the face value of these shares is generally of ₹1 or ₹10 or 100. So generally the face value of these shares is of ₹1 or 10 or either 100 rupees. Okay. Now after understanding the meaning and types of preference shares and equity shares, let us understand the difference between preference shares and equity shares. The first point, that is rate of dividend. Dividend preference shares are paid at fixed rate. It means the rate of dividend is fixed in case of preference shares. The rate of dividend on equity shares is not fixed. It may vary from year to year depending upon the availability of profit. It means in the year when there is no profit and there is insufficient profit or company has gone in loss, then they may not pay the amount of dividend to the equity shareholders. So it may vary from year to year depending upon the amount of profit. Next one, that is arrears of dividend. If dividend is not paid on cumulative shares in any year, the arrears of dividend is paid against company's profit in future. Now we have already seen that in case of cumulative preference shares, if in any year the company has earned insufficient profit or loss has been achieved by the company, then it may not pay the dividend to the preference shareholders in that particular year, but it will be paid in the next year when the profit is earned. The dividend is paid of 2 years combined to the cumulative preference shareholders. But in case of equity shareholders, arrears of dividend is not paid to them. Okay, arrears of dividend on equity share cannot be accumulated, and so it is not paid against company's profit in future. It means the year in which the profit is earned, then the combined or the accumulated profit cannot be paid to the equity shareholders. Okay, next one, that is third point, preferential right as to the payment of dividend. We have already seen that the preference shareholders are having the first right priority at the time of payment of dividend before the equity shareholders. Okay, they have a right to receive dividend before any dividend is paid on equity shares, and they are not having that preferential right. Payment of dividend on equity share is made after the payment of preference dividend. It means after the dividend is paid to the preference shareholders, if any surplus remains, then and then only the equity shareholders are paid the dividend. Next, fourth point, preferential right as to the payment of capital. Just as they are having the preferential right in case of payment of dividend before the equity shareholders, in the same way they are having the preferential right at the time of repayment of the capital, at the time of liquidation of the company also before the equity shareholders. Preference shareholders have a right to return of preference share capital in case of winding up before any capital is returned to equity shareholders. It means before the capital is paid to the equity shareholders, at the time of liquidation, first priority is given to the repayment of preference share capital. Okay, and equity share capital is paid only when preference share capital is paid out fully. It means after paying the preference share capital, if any surplus capital remains, then and then only equity share capital will be paid at the time of liquidation. Next, fifth point, voting rights. Preference shareholders do not have a voting rights. Equity shareholders have the voting rights because they are bearing the risk and they are called the owners of the company. That's why equity shareholders are having the voting rights while preference shareholders are not having such voting rights. Last point, sixth point, rights to participate in management. They do not have right to participate in management of the company, while the equity shareholders are having the right to participate in the management of the company because they are called the owners of the company. Okay. Now, after understanding the difference between the preference shareholders and preference share capital and equity share capital, let us understand the types of share capital. That is very important from the point of view of the practical sums related to this chapter. The first one, that is authorized, nominal or registered capital. It can be called authorized also, nominal also, or registered capital. The maximum amount which a company can accumulate by share capital during its lifetime is called authorized capital. It means the maximum amount of shares or the maximum amount of fund that the company needs during the entire lifetime of its company, that is called the authorized share capital. It is stated in the memorandum of association, also stated at the time of registration. That amount or authorized capital is mentioned even in the memorandum of association and at the time of registration of the company also. Hence it's called registered capital. That's why it is also called authorized as well as registered capital. If there is a need to increase the authorized capital in future, the same can be increased by passing a resolution in the general meeting of shareholders of company and also as per provision of Companies Act. It means during the lifetime, if the company needs extra capital for the enhancement or for the improvement of the business, then in that case it can increase the amount of authorized capital only by passing a resolution in the general meeting as per the provision of Companies Act. Okay, so the first one, that is authorized capital. For example, it is given to you the authorized capital of a particular company, that is ABC Limited, is given to you 1 crore. So 10 lakh shares, equity shares of rupees 10 each is equal to 1 crore. Next one, that is issued capital. Now, issued capital means out of the authorized capital, suppose there are 10 lakh authorized equity share capital. Out of 10 lakh shares, the company is issuing only 7 lakh shares. So the issued capital will be 7 lakh multiplied by 10 is equal to 70 lakh. Okay, so 70 lakh will be the issued capital. The share capital issued by issue of shares out of authorized capital, always the amount of issued capital will be less than the authorized capital. It can never be more than the authorized capital. For example, if 7 lakh shares are issued out of authorized capital of 10 lakh shares of rupees 10 each, rupees 70 lakh is known as issued capital of the company. It means out of 10 lakh shares, that is authorized shares of the company, 7 lakh shares are issued, 7 lakh shares are issued of rupees 10 each, then 70 lakh, that would be the issued share capital. Okay. Now, after understanding the issued capital, the third type of capital, that is subscribed capital. The value of shares for which applications are received out of issued share capital is known as subscribed capital. It means suppose the company has issued 7 lakh shares and the company has received the subscription of the public or of the shareholders, or the application has been received for 5 lakh shares, then the subscribed capital, that would be 5 lakh multiplied by 10 is equal to 50 lakh. Okay. Okay, subscribed share capital can be equal to or less than the issued capital. Even if share applications are received for more number of shares than the issued shares, company can allot shares only to the extent of share issued. It means in the previous example, if the issued shares are 7 lakh and price of one share, that is 10 rupees. So 7 lakh into 10, it means 70 lakh, that would be issued capital. Out of 7 lakh, the applications are received for 8 lakh shares. Then the company can subscribe only the shares up to the amount of issued capital only. It means it has to return back the 1 lakh shares that are over subscription. Okay, so it can never subscribe the shares more than the extent of share issued. Next one, that is called up capital. Company can call up the amount of equal to face value of shares or lesser amount from the applicants to whom the share are allotted. When company calls for lesser amount of share, the balance amount can be called in future from the shareholders. It means the company can call up the capital. Suppose the face value of shares is rupees 10. So it may not call the entire amount of share capital at the time of at the time of subscription of the capital. It may call up in 4 different slabs also. Suppose such amount called up on shares is known as called up capital. For example, if company has called up rupees 6 per share on 7 lakh shares of rupees 10 each, the called up capital would be 7 lakh into 6. So 42 lakh, that would be the called up capital. And remaining 4 rupees per share, it will be calling on later on. So entire amount is not called up together. So whatever amount is called up, that is called up capital. So out of 7 lakh shares, the price of per share, that is 10 rupees, but company has called up only rupees 6 per share. So the called up capital, that would be 7 lakh into 6 is equal to 42 lakh. Okay. Next, uncalled capital. So whatever the called up capital, suppose 7 lakh shares are there and the company has called rupees 6 per share. Then how much amount is not called up per share? That is 4 rupees per share. So 7 lakh into 4, it means 28 lakh, that would be uncalled capital. Okay, it is a part of subscribed capital, a capital which is not yet called from the shareholders by the board of directors of the company. It means still this amount is not called up by the board of directors of the company, that is called uncalled capital. Okay, here the same example that I have said, that is 6 rupees per share has been called up. Then remaining 4 rupees per share, that is called uncalled capital. Okay. Next one, that is paid up capital. Now the amount received by the company from shareholders out of called up capital is known as paid up capital. Suppose there are 7 lakh shares and the called up capital, that is 6 rupees per share. Then out of 42 lakh, suppose 2 rupees per share has not been paid. See, here it is given, if a shareholder holding 1000 shares could not pay first called money at rupees 2 per share, then paid up capital shall be 41 lakh 98,000, because one shareholder who is holding 1000 shares had not paid rupees 2 per share out of total called up capital, that is 6 rupees per share. He has not paid 2 rupees per share. So 1000 into 2, that would come to 2000. So total 42 lakh, from that 2000 will be subtracted. So the amount that is paid up capital, that would come 41 lakh 98,000. Okay. Next one, that is reserve capital. When management of the company feels that the called up capital is sufficient for the business requirement of the company and no further capital is required in future, the uncalled capital is converted into reserve capital. It means when the called up capital, suppose out of 7 lakh shares, 6 rupees per share has been called up. So 42 lakh, that would be the called up capital. Now 4 rupees per share the company has not called up, and the company feels that in future also this amount will not be required by the company, then it may convert this capital into reserve capital by passing special resolution in the meeting of shareholders. Such type of capital which is not called up and the company feels that in future also this amount of capital will not be required by the company, then that amount of capital is called as reserve capital. Okay, such reserve capital can be called up from shareholders only when the company goes into liquidation. Once they have declared such capital as reserve capital, they can call up this amount of capital, that is reserve capital, only at the time of liquidation of the company. Okay, now after understanding the types of capital, that let us understand this types of capital with the help of a chart. Classification of share capital, we have studied first one, that is authorized capital. In that there are two types, that is issued capital and reserve capital. In issued capital, again, that is subscribed capital. Subscribed capital, there are again two subparts, that is called up capital and uncalled capital. If it is called up capital, out of that how much amount is paid and how much amount is unpaid. So whatever amount is paid up by the shareholders, that is called paid up capital. Okay. Okay, so whatever we have studied in detail, this is the classification in the form of a chart. Okay, now let us understand the next topic, that is capital reserve. Just as we have studied reserve capital, let us understand the next topic, that is capital reserve. Capital reserve are those reserves which are created out of capital profit. If the company is earning capital profit, from that certain amount is kept as reserve, that is known as capital reserve. Capital profit are those profits which are not earned in the normal course of the business. It means we've already studied in future the two types of profit, that is revenue profit and capital profit. The profit that is earned from the daily routine business activities, then that is called revenue profit, and the profit that is not earned on regular basis, then that type of profit is called as capital profit. So whatever the reserve that is kept out of such type of capital profit, that is called capital reserve. These reserves cannot be utilized for distribution of dividend. Students, this point is very important. The reserve, the capital reserve that cannot be utilized for distribution of dividend. Following transactions give rise to capital profit. Now, how this capital profit can be earned? By selling of fixed assets, on revaluation of fixed assets, profit prior to incorporation of company. It means before the incorporation of the company, if any profit is earned, then that is considered as capital profit. Premium on issue of shares and debentures, profit on redemption of debentures, profit on reissue of forfeited shares. And these are all the examples of capital reserve. From this type of profit, capital reserve can be created. Okay, now after understanding the point of capital reserve, let us understand the next important point for the practical sums, that is oversubscription and undersubscription of shares. Okay. Now, if applications are received for more number, oversubscription means more number of shares are subscribed by the shareholders than the shares issued by the company, then that is called oversubscription. As company cannot allot more shares than the shares issued, it has to refund excess applications money to applicants of shares. It means the company cannot accept the subscription of more number of shares than the shares issued. Then whatever the extra applications that has been received, that has to be refunded back, or that has to be returned back. In these circumstances, company may allot full number of shares or not allot any shares, or allot partially number of shares to the share applicants against their share applications. If applications are received for less number of shares, on the contrary, if less number of shares are received compared to the shares issued, then that is called under subscription. Okay. According to SEBI guidelines, company must get share application for at least 90% of the amount called up by public subscription. It means whatever the amount that has been called up by public subscription, company should at least get 90% of the share application. Okay, next one, that is next important terminology over here, that is IPO and FPO, an initial public offering. IPO means initial public offering and FPO means follow on public offer. IPO, an initial public offering, is the first time that the share or stock of a private company is offered for purchase to the public. It means the share, whenever it is first time issued by the company to the public, then it is called as initial public offering. But if a company has already issued the shares to the public through IPO process and wants to increase the capital fund, once already the shares are issued by the process of IPO, but still the company needs extra fund, then it can issue the new shares by FPO, that is follow on public offer, is issued by the company to public or to investors. It means for extra fund, capital fund, the company has to issue FPO. It can be issued by the procedure that is FPO, that is called follow on public offer. Now let us understand the methods for issue of shares by company. Company can issue shares by three ways. There are three different ways through which the company can issue the shares. That is at par, it means at face value. Second one at premium, that is more price than the face value, and at discount, it means less price than the face value. At par, if the total amount payable by share subscriber to company is equal to the total face value of the shares are said to be issued at par. It means the shares are issued at face value of the share is rupees 10 and they are issued at a price of rupees 10, then the shares are issued at par. At premium means suppose the price value or the face value of the share is rupees 10 and the shares are issued at price of rupees 12 or 14, then extra 2 rupees or 4 rupees, that is called shares issued at premium. Okay, next one, issue of shares at discount. if the total amount payable by share subscribers to a company is less than the total face value of the shares, suppose the face value of shares is rupees 10 and they are issued at rupees 9, then rupees 1, that is considered as the amount of discount per share. Okay, now after understanding the types of shares and even the methods for issuing these shares by company, let us understand the next topic, that is, as per section 53 of Companies Act 2013, companies would no longer be permitted to issue shares at discount. It means according to Companies Act 2013, the company is not allowed to issue the shares at discount. Okay, now let us understand the accounting effect for share capital transaction. You have to be very careful in these journal entries, because based on these journal entries we are going to start the practical sums from the next video lecture. Okay, so first journal entry, that is at the time of share application. The first entry, that would be bank account debit to share application. When the share application is received from the shareholders, then you will get the money by check from the shareholders. So company's bank account would be raised. So bank account debit to share application account credit. And when this application amount is transferred to share application amount is transferred to our bank account, then the entry would be, when applications are received for more shares than the shares issued and excess application money is to be refunded to share applicants. It means, suppose the shares that are issued are 7 lakh shares and the company has received the share application of 8 lakh shares, then the 1 lakh shares for which more number of subscription has been received, they are to be returned back to the shareholders. So for that, the journal entry would be share application account debit to bank account credit, because that much amount of money which is extra subscription that we are returning back. Okay, next, third entry, when board of directors of a company approves the allotment of shares, then share application money in respect of share allotted is transferred to share capital account. Okay, next entry, that is when when board of directors company approves the allotment of shares. It means after getting the application, the approval is to be given by the board of directors, then share application money in respect of share allotted is transferred to share capital account. Okay, so after getting the approval of the board of directors, this share application money is transferred to share capital account. So the journal entry, that would be share application account debit to share capital account credit. Next step, that is at the time of allotment of shares. The applicants who are allotted shares become shareholders. Now the board of directors allot the shares to the shareholders. So when they are allotted the shares, the journal entry, that would be share allotment account debit to share capital account credit. And when this amount is due on allotment is received, previously the amount was due at the time of allotment, now that allotment money is received from the shareholders, then the entry would be bank account debit to share allotment account credit. So two entries would be there at the time of allotment. Next, at the time of first call, when the first call is made after receiving the allotment money, suppose you have received the 2 rupees per share at the time of allotment. Now at the time of first call you have asked for 3 rupees per share, then the entry would be first, when at the time you are when the first call is made after receiving the allotment money, it means still the amount is due for first call and you are requesting the shareholders to pay the amount of first call, then the first journal entry, that would be share first call account debit to share capital account credit when the amount is due from the shareholders of first call. Then the second entry, when the amount is received of first call from the shareholders, then the entry would be bank account debit to share first call account credit. Okay, next, after understanding the share first call, last entry, it can be first and final call. Even it can be divided into 4 slabs, that is first at the time of application, second at the time of allotment, third can be first call, and fourth can be final call also. It means it can be divided the entire amount of shares into 4 different parts also. Suppose the price of shares is rupees 10 per share, and at the time of application you are calling 3 per share, at the time of allotment you are calling 2 per share, at the time of first call you are calling 3 rupees, and at the time of final call you are calling 2 rupees per share. So in this way you can divide the 10 rupees per share into 4 different slabs. Okay, over here the journal entries that are given in your textbook, that is only up to 3 steps, that is at the time of application, at the time of allotment of shares, and at the time of share first call. It can be divided into 4 parts depending upon the question. Okay, so students, till now we have understood the basic introduction, that is the meaning and the type of companies based on the limited by responsibility, that is limited by shares, company limited by guarantee, and company by unlimited liability. Shares and share capital, in that we have studied preference shares, types of preference shares, equity shares, difference between preference shares and equity shares, types of share capital, and the journal entries related to the share capital. Now in the next video lecture, I'll be explaining you the practical sums related to share capital. Till then, goodbye, keep practicing, stay blessed.